Alright, back to work on the XR100. Today I'm going to work on diagnosing the ignition system problem. Again, it's not a no spark condition, which is actually easier to diagnose than what I've got, which is I've got either a intermittent spark or a ignition timing issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some tests that are outlined in the service manual and go from there. I'm hoping to find maybe a corroded connection somewhere that might be causing the problem. That would be nice, but I don't know if I'm going to be that lucky. So first step is I got to remove the tank. Well, first a quick anatomy lesson on the ignition system of the XR100. The XR100 ignition system is painfully simple. It doesn't have to run any lights or anything like that, so it's a real simple system, no battery ignition. So what we've got is the heart of the system is this block up here. This is your ignition control module. Okay, and then right here is your ignition coil. Then you have, of course, the wiring harness. Then down here we have the pickup coil, which, as the magnet on the stator or flywheel goes by, right there, actually triggers a pulse, that coil. And then behind here, fueled by the magnet that goes by, is the stator coil, which is what generates the voltage. So when you kick this and the magnet goes by, it generates a voltage. The voltage is sent up, that energizes this module. The module then, upon receiving a impulse from this pickup coil, sends a higher voltage into the primary of the ignition coil. At that point, the ignition coil converts that fairly high voltage into a very high voltage, which jumps the gap on the spark plug and creates the spark. And then the only other part to this system is you have the kill switch up here on the handlebar. And then, interestingly enough, according to the manual, from 2000 on, there was an ignition switch that was involved in the circuit. And what's interesting is that this is an 03. There's a bracket right here on the frame for an ignition switch, but there was no ignition switch when I got it. So my thoughts are that they bypassed an ignition switch. That would indicate to me that somewhere I should find some wires that are spliced or disconnected and something done to them, which I don't see. The other possibility is that we know this is an older motor. Maybe when they put the motor in, the motor came with the ignition system and they weren't sure if it would work correctly with the 03 ignition, so they put the 92 ignition system in. I don't know. But anyways, so, you know, I'm going to check connections on the wiring harness and then do a couple of voltage checks. Okay, one of the critical things that this system needs is good ground, and right here is where a lot of your ground connections come up. And what I found right off the bat is this is loose. I've got a loose ground connection right here. You can see how loose that is. I can wiggle that back and forth like nothing. Very loose. Looks also like there's some rust on the frame there, so we've got a bad ground connection right there. So first thing I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm going to remove this screw, which is so loose I can take it out with my fingers. I'm going to clean up the rust on the frame right there, clean up these connections, reinstall this screw and tighten it, and see if that makes a difference. Alright, I cleaned up that connection and reinstalled and tightened the screw. So let's give it a try and see if it made any difference. I'm going to not bother putting the tank back on right now. I've got enough fuel, should be enough fuel in the carburetor bowl to let it run if it wanted to run. And if I see any signs of life, then I'll put the tank back on. That's what it was. Running no problem. So right there, bad connection, bad ground connection. Can imagine over the years how many of these expensive CDI modules or ignition modules have been changed because of a bad ground connection being the actual cause. Because I mean, this was mimicking a timing problem. If I were going to theorize what might have been going on, either had a really intermittent spark, or it might even be possible that there was actually a capacitance, that this bad ground may have been acting sort of like having a capacitor in series with the ground lead, and the capacitance could have been actually changing the timing characteristics of the module, causing it to be severely retarded or advanced in timing. But at this point I really don't care. All I care about is the fact that it's running. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this screw again. I'm going to put a little bit of dielectric grease on this to keep it from corroding, and then reinstall it. So now I've applied the grease. This is dielectric silicone compound for electronic systems. This helps keep moisture and contamination from getting in there and causing corrosion that will cause bad connections. You know, it just occurred to me that if my theory is correct about it kicking back so violently that whoever was trying to start it ended up actually having the teeth break off in those gears and cause all that problem down inside here, was caused by the kicking back, which was caused by the ignition timing being off, caused by that screw. We're talking about a loose screw with a little bit of corrosion causing some catastrophic damage inside that engine. So that's interesting. So I got the fuel tank back on and attached. Let's see, I was just running it, but not long enough for it to really warm up. So I'm going to start it with the choke on. The way an XR should run. Now the choke off, settling down, and it's stalled out. I might not have enough fuel in that tank from the other day. I was running it on reserve, so maybe it's low. Well, it's still running kind of rough. Doesn't want to stay idling. It is smoking like a chimney. I mean, some of that's residual oil from my coating the cylinder really well with clean oil and the piston and everything like that, but it should start to burn off. If not, well, then it means my rings aren't doing diddly. Yeah, spoke too soon. Still ain't running the way it should. There it goes. That's settling down. But when it settles down, it gives a little sputter backfire. I did have that cylinder honed, so the rings are going to need some time to seat. I'm more concerned with the uneven idle. I guess I could put the sprocket on, put a load on it, and ride it around a bit and see how it acts. Okay, I installed the drive sprocket, and then I installed the side case here, and I installed the gear shift change lever, and I installed a couple of screws that I had taken out off of these plastic side pieces right here. And I've got, what do I got left? I got one screw and washer left. That's a trim one. That's probably goes, let's see, it's interesting. This one is missing on this side. Oh, and this one is in here. Okay, so this is going to be for the side panel that goes here. And so that one I got in the can goes here. Okay, good. So I don't have any extra screws. That one last screw is for the skid plate, which I haven't reinstalled yet. I've got to take that large bottom hanger bolt out to put that back on, but I'm not going to put that right on just yet because I'm going to be curious about oil leaks. So it's going to be easier to see the oil leaks if I have any with that out. So let me put this last one in here, put the other side panel on, and put the seat on. Hate when that happens. At the moment I can't locate this side piece here. Pretty sure I had it when I got the bike. I don't think that was missing, so gotta have it somewhere. So I'm gonna throw the seat on for now without that side panel. I'll look for that some other time. Anxious to see whether or not this thing will drive half decent. Hey, I found it. If it was a snake, it would have bit me. Put it up on a shelf and forgot it was there. Anyways, obviously the reason why it's not running well is because I didn't have all of the plastics on it. Any mechanic will tell you that's part of your whole problem right there. So, just realized I never did tighten this clamp for the boot here. Alright. Grab a Phillips.